And welcome to our May 15, 2025 CPA meeting. The CPA has provided the opportunity to the public to participate via WebEx platform. When we take public comments, the moderator will announce that the comment period is open. Member of the public will then be able to click on the hand icon to raise their hands, and moderator will prompt the commentator to unmute their microphone. Call-in user will need to press *3 to raise their hands. Instruction will also be on the screen. You'll be allotted about 5 minutes for public comment. All right, we would like to turn back to Ms. Reed for a quorum of the board.
Doug Aguilera,
Present.
Patricia Batchelor,
Here.
Nancy Corrigan,
Nancy Corrigan, present.
Nancy Dong,
Present.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines, Christian Lotta,
Present.
Tony Lynn,
Here.
Bruce Rafel, Joe Rosenbaum,
Here.
Teresa Thompson,
Here.
and Yen Tu.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. At this point, I'm going to read the mission statement for our record. The CPA's mission is to protect consumer by ensuring only qualified licensors practice public accountancy in accordance with established professional standards. This mission is derived from the statutory requirement that protection of the public shall be the highest priority for the California Board of Accountancy in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. All right, moving on to our agenda item. I'm going to continue until 12. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. All right. Public comment. Number 1, the public comment for item not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment from the public in Sacramento? See none. Moderator, please open up the WebEx for comment on agenda item not on the agenda.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment about something that is not already on the agenda, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 5 minutes with a 30-second warning. Are there any comments for items that are not already on the agenda? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you very much, moderator.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item number 2, report of the president. The 2A, item 2A, and actually item 2A is the resolution to retire qualification member, committee member Jeffrey Baginski, CPA. And then item 2B and C are resolution for the retired qualification committee member of Jeffrey Baginski, CPA, and retiring of qualification committee member Hansu Ming, CPA. Can I make a motion? Can I get a motion to accept the resolution? Thank you, Ms. Hine, for the resolution. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Raffle. We have a motion on the floor. Any comment and question from the board? Any from the audience in Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, can you open up the WebEx for the item?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the motion about the resolution, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in user may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the resolutions? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moderator.
You're welcome.
All right, we're moving right along. So That's right, Ms. Reed. We do need to take a vote for a resolution. Please do so.
Doug Aguilera,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Bruce Rayful,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Yin Tu.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Now we're moving on to item C, which we would like to table this item because AICPA has not released the updated list of volunteer group for the 2026-27 volunteer year. This item will be deferred to July meeting of the CPA. Right. Now we're moving on to item D, review and approval of the California Board of Accountancy 2025 to 29 strategic plan. Ms. Hill, would you like to do the report?
I would like to. Thank you, President Tu. Hello, members. I guess I can still say good morning. It's 2 minutes to go. So make sure my notes are correct. So we are back together this morning to review and approve the final edits made to the draft 2025 to 2029 CBA strategic plan per discussion from the March CBA meeting. These edits include the definitions of 3 of the goals and then a rewording of 1 of the objectives under the emerging technologies goal. You were provided 2 versions of the draft strategic plan as amendments. Amendment 1 included strike through of the old text and the new draft language was underlined. Then attachment 2 is a designed version with the draft language already included. I will briefly remind you of the suggested edits that we spoke about last time. So the first is on page 9. For the definition of the outreach goal, we are removing the words educate the public, which was mentioned it could have been narrowed the focus. So our new proposed definition is provide outreach to a wide audience, grow audience diversity, and increase consumer protection. The next one is on page 10, the definition of laws and regulations, specifically with the wording and legislative influence, which was mentioned that was not clear and could be misinterpreted. So the new proposed definition is maintain an active presence with the legislature through engagement and collaboration regarding legislation that impacts consumer protection and the regulation of the accounting profession. The third goal, to redefine page 12 under organizational effectiveness. The wording was pretty succinct before, so we just elaborated a little bit. So the new goal definition is now develop strategies to maintain an efficient and effective team. Finally, we have reworded objective 6.1 under the emerging technologies goal. To clarify the objective, there was discussions about internal versus external users and various phrases. So now the new proposed definition is develop and implement a comprehensive and universal application processing and enforcement case management system that benefits external users by providing an online interface and facilitates secure payment transactions, and for internal users, creates an automated workflow, data transfer, report generation, and integrated communications. This system would modernize CBA operations by improving efficiency, enhancing internal and external user experience, and ensuring regulatory compliance in a fully digital and paperless environment. So I hope that clarifies and gets to what the board was looking for in March. Okay, so we are recommending that the CBA provide any edits or suggested changes to the draft strategic plan, and, well, really hoping that you make a motion to approve these edits to the 2025 to 2029 strategic plan. And I will hand it back to President Tu.
Thank you, David. That was, and I appreciate you taking the extra time to make some clarification as well as taking the input from the board members from last month, no, 2 months ago meeting. Yes, sir, Joe.
I would like to make a motion to approve the edits.
Thank you. Do I see a second, Ms. Nancy Corrigan?
Yes, and I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Oh, yes, Ms. Lara.
Thank you, President Tu. I just have a question on the updated definition for 6.1 on page 11 for the emerging technologies. I noticed that for the external users, the language used was benefits external users by providing, and for internal, the language used was for internal users creates. So I was just curious about the distinction and not using the consistent language for external versus internal. And then also, I was wondering, when we say internal users creates, it kind of implies that the things that follow are new things. So I just was wondering if those are all completely new things. I assume they're probably just improvements and do exist in some form today. So I was just curious about that as well.
Read through that so I can give you an informed answer. Yeah, I believe this is all going to be new items that we're talking about. The enforcement case management system is something that's currently under development. So yeah, so creates probably would be the appropriate term there.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments from the board? Any public comment from Sacramento? Seeing none, Ms. Moderator, please open up WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on the strategic plan, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, and our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the strategic plan? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you for that. And Ms. Reed, please take the roll.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum, Bruce Rafel,
Yes.
Tony Lynn, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
and Doug Aguilera.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. It's just a little bit after 12, so we're gonna go take a break for lunch, and we'll be back at 1 o'clock. And thank you very much. We'll see. Yeah. We're all back at 1 o'clock.
Part of it is.
Alrighty. Good afternoon once again, Yen Tu, and would like to get our meeting back in the groove. Our next item is 2E, Department of Consumer Affairs Director's Report on Departmental Activity. It's very annoying with this stage of my life when I had to take my glasses off to read properly. If I want to see people, I had to put my glasses back on. On that note, thank you for being up here to do your report.
Good morning. My name is Alice Bordikina-Zholobnyuk from the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I'm going to go through the DCA update. Governor's Reorganization Plan. In January, Governor Newsom released his proposed 2025-26 state budget, which included a proposal to split DCA's oversight agency, the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, into two state agencies, the California Housing and Homelessness Agency, CHHA, and Business and Consumer Services Agency, BCSA. The proposed California Housing and Homelessness Agency will oversee housing and homelessness solutions and safeguard civil rights. The new Business and Consumer Services Agency will be responsible for consumer affairs, licensing, and enforcement. The Department of Consumer Affairs would be among the 8 departments in this new agency. As part of the process in state government, on April 4th, the Governor's Reorganization Plan was delivered to the nonpartisan Little Hoover Commission for review. The submission of the plan to the commission began an approximate 90-day formal review process. The Commission held public hearings on April 23rd and 24th to receive testimony and for interested parties to provide input on the proposed reorganization. Our agency secretary, DCA Director Kirchmeier, and other impacted department leaders testified in support of the governor's plan and responded to questions from the commissioners. The Little Hoover Commission is in the process of writing a report that it will submit to the governor and the legislature. The report will offer a recommendation to the governor and the legislature as to whether it believes their reorganization plan should go into effect. The commission sometimes offers recommendations for how the plan could be strengthened, either through administrative actions or subsequent legislation. The legislature will then have 60 days to review and consider the reorganization plan. The governor's plan becomes effective on the 61st day after it has been given to the legislature, unless either the Senate or the Assembly adopts by majority vote a resolution to reject the plan. If approved, the Business and Consumer Services Agency will be created in July 2025 with 1 year of transition and will become operative on July 1, 2026. In addition to several virtual briefings hosted by Agency Secretary Moss, there is detailed information available on the reorganization plan on the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency website, bcsh.ca.gov/about-reorganization. We believe this is an extraordinary opportunity for DCA to better align with other consumer protection departments. A secretary within the governor's cabinet focused solely on consumer protection will only strengthen our mission, momentum, and delivery of services to California. DCA will continue to keep board and bureau leadership updated on the progress of the governor's reorganization plan. Our next item is hybrid telework transition. On March 3rd, 2025, Governor Newsom issued an executive order requiring all state agencies and departments to update their hybrid telework policies for employees and increase from 2 to 4 days in office per week, beginning on July 1st, 2025. On March 13th, 2025, the California Department of Human Resources issued guidance on implementation of the executive order. The guidance provides defined parameters for when agencies and departments can make case-by-case exceptions to the 4-day in-office minimum requirement. DCA has been working closely with a few programs on identifying additional space needed for this transition. DCA has been hosting bi-weekly meetings with board and bureau leadership to provide updates and respond to questions. We recognize that this transition will likely require adjustments for many employees, and we are working together to minimize the impacts. We will, of course, continue to keep leadership updated on any additional direction received from CalHR. New Compliance and Equity Officer. On April 28th, Levi Hull began serving as DCA's new Compliance and Equity Officer. In this position, he is responsible for leading and coordinating department-wide quality improvement efforts to ensure consistency and regulatory compliance. This position oversees DCA's solid planning and training services, the Organizational Improvement Office, the Equal Employment Opportunity Office, and the Internal Audit Office, and serves as the liaison to the department's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee. As the department's equity officer, this position is dedicated to enhancing the diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility policies, trainings, and activities throughout the department's programs. Levi brings more than 12 years of experience in leading multidisciplinary teams and driving strategic program development. With more than 9 years of experience in EEO compliance and program management, including nearly 3 years at DCA, he is an experienced leader with a deep commitment to fostering inclusive, equitable, and accessible work environments. Board member orientation training. Reminder, board members must complete the board member orientation training within 1 year of their appointment or reappointment. This training will be offered virtually on June 18th, 2025, and again on October 22nd, 2025. Members can register for this training via the Learning Management System, LMS. In closing, each year during the first week of May, we celebrate Public Service Recognition Week. I want to close with a special thank you to the board, your executive officer, and board staff for your hard work and dedicated efforts to achieve our mission of consumer protection. We are grateful for your partnership and applaud your extraordinary service each and every day. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that report. Any question from the board members? Seeing none, any comment or question, comment from the public in Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx for comment?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on the DCA update, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the DCA report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Please.
Thank you.
And thank you again for being here. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Ms. Ruff.
Would it be possible to receive a written copy of what you read?
I'll double check with BBR and they'll get back to you.
You can go through the executive officer. Thank you.
Right, thank you. We're now going to move on to item number 3, report from the Vice President, Ms. Salata.
Thank you, President Tu. Okay, this item is agenda item number 3A, our appointments and reappointments to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. This item is to recommend the reappointment of Alan M. Gittleson, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. The Enforcement Advisory Committee assists the CBA in advisory capacity with enforcement activities. This includes reviewing closed investigation files, providing technical guidance on open investigations, and participating in investigative hearings. I conferred with the CBA Executive Officer to verify that Mr. Gittleson has met the appropriate requirements for license renewal and has demonstrated the skills and knowledge to continue to serve as a member on the Enforcement Advisory Committee. I would like to make a motion to reappoint Alan M. Gittleson, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee through May 31st, 2027. I will now turn it back to President Tu to ask for a second. Thank you.
Is there a second? Thanks, Ms. Salata. Mr. Raffle. Perfect. Any comments from or question from the board? Any comments from the Sacramento? Seeing none. Moderator, could you open the WebEx, please?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the motion to reappoint, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the motion to reappoint? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Moderator. Ms.
welcome.
Reeds, could you call the roll for the vote?
Doug Aguilera,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines, Christian Latta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Bruce Rayfield,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Yen Tu.
Yes,
The motion carries.
excellent. Thank you. And Mr. Aguilar, would you like to do the report for the Secretary and Treasurer?
Yes, I'm Doug Aguilera, and this is a CBA item 4A, Secretary Treasurer's Report for the third quarter financial report for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. So this is the period beginning July 1, 2024 and going through March 31st, 2025, 3/4 of the way through the year. Provided for your review is the third quarter financial report for fiscal year 24-25. For the current year, the CBA's budget authority remains set at $19,785,000. The CBA's proposed budget for the next fiscal year is $20,177,000. This amount does not reflect the funding reductions contained in 2 budget letters issued by the Department of Finance related to the elimination of 3 vacant positions and a cost efficiency reduction. In total, those are about $100,000. Nor does it contain any other adjustments to the budget generated by the governor's May revision and subsequent review by the legislature prior to passing the final budget in June. Additional information on this will be provided at the July CBA meeting. And then I'll direct you to the handout and page 2 reflects CBA's revenues, which totaled over 17.6 million for the first 9 months through March 31st, 2025. Projected revenues are anticipated to exceed 21.5 million by the end of the fiscal year. On page 3, you'll see that the fiscal month 9 expenditure and projection report with year-to-date expenditures through March 31st, 2025, which totaled over 13.5 million. The CBA is currently projected to end the fiscal year with a budget surplus of almost 1.7 million or 8.4%. Page 4 depicts fiscal year comparisons, which reflects an overall increase in spending of 3.9% when compared to the same period last fiscal year. Pages 5 and 6 provides explanations on expenditures and deviations in spending for certain key budget items. And then page 8 includes the fund condition statement, which identifies that CBA is projected to have 13.3 months in reserve at the conclusion of the 2024-2025 fiscal year. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions and have staff available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Any question from the board? Yes, Ms. Hines.
Governor's order from changing the hybrid work requirement from 2 to 4 days. Has that had an impact on the operating expenses of the CBA?
Mr. Hines.
No, not at present. We had the facility and the space to accommodate the staff, so bringing them back into the office isn't having an adverse impact on our budget.
Talking about previously moving in order to reduce some of the costs, and then we decided not to because of the anticipation. So that cost savings that we were anticipating is not necessarily something that's needed, or it hasn't had an impact on the agency going forward?
No, we had suspended the move sometime last year or earlier when we had the first return to office on the 2-day hybrid. We had paused our relocation at that time and then renegotiated our lease, which I think Christy will be talking about here in a minute. But yeah, there's no future looking at a move.
Whether it was going to have a fiscal impact, not moving the hybrid, less hybrid or anything like that.
No, actually, we're going to see, at least in terms of staying here, a slight reduction in our lease costs here. So there's going to be some savings, not to the extent had we moved and really changed our footprint, but at least for this facility or the space we occupy now, we've seen some savings from the lease.
All right. Yes, Ms. Latta.
I had a question about the temporary positions. It notes that there's a 46% increase in the temporary position personnel line item. I was just curious why such the increase this year.
I'm going to ask Ms. Abate to deal with this part.
Okay, I can try to answer this the best way possible. It has to do more with the positions that we put into the blanket. We had some reorganizations going on, and there was like a manager position that we had to put in there to just kind of redirect resources. So even though it seems like we had like an increase in temporary positions, it's just we had some reorganizing to do.
Thank you.
So they were very temporary.
Yes, they're very temporary. Yeah.
Ms. Batchelor.
About the 3 positions that were eliminated, what was the reason for that elimination? Is this going to cause more duty for the existing staff, or did these temps take over those particular positions? Just curious.
No, the temporary positions weren't to address any of the, I guess, the position vacating authority. Staff throughout the board have had to step up and take on extra activities or other work. We have a lot of cross training we've done, not just within the licensing division and their units, but enforcement and admin as well. So part of the sweep was to eliminate those positions and not necessarily give us any positions in return. So the team is stepping up and doing the work.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we need to do the public side of things, right? Did I do that yet? Somebody would mind? Okay. Anybody from Sacramento? Seeing none, Ms. Moderator, open up for the treasurer's report.
Thank you. If there's anyone who'd like to make a comment on the treasurer's report, you may look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your WebEx screen, and click that. That will raise your hand, and our call-in users can press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on the treasurer's report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moderator.
You're welcome.
We're now moving on to item 5, which is the report from the executive officer. 5A is the administration activity report. Ms. Abeda, you're back on.
Good afternoon, President Tu and members of the board. I'm happy to share that the CBA has fully executed the lease renewal for the Venture Oaks office. The new rent schedule took effect in February and will terminate on January 31st of 2033. The monthly rent is starting at $45,594 with a projected annual increase of approximately 2.3% each year. Excuse me. The rent for the final year starting in February of 2032 will be $53,573. Under the new lease, the CBA is saving over $100,000 per year. In 2017, the CBA relocated its headquarters here to Venture Oaks site due to its convenient access to freeways, airports, hotels, and the Department of Consumer Affairs headquarters. Free parking for staff is a great perk. As you know, it's just minutes from downtown Sacramento. The CBA is pleased to have renewed its lease, and staff members are grateful for recent tenant improvements made by the property owners, such as the addition of a water bottle filling stations, an Insta-Hot in the break room, and new window shades throughout the suite, similar to what you see in here. On April 16th, Executive Officer Dominic Franzella held an all-staff meeting to update staff on Executive Order N2225, also known as the Return to Office Mandate, which was previously spoken with the Department of Consumer Affairs. Effective July 1st, staff will transition to a new hybrid workforce schedule with a standard expectation of 4 days per week in the office. Increasing the office days enhances communication, collaboration, and networking, while a hybrid model maintains flexibility and combines the advantages of remote and in-person work. CBA leadership will continue to partner with DC executive staff for the return to office requirements. Staff continue to make progress on the business modernization project. In mid-April, staff met with DCA Chief Information Officer Jason Petroni to begin the examination application phase of the project. CBA business analyst Stephanie Tao will lead efforts to modernize the streamline planning documents to guide the system development. In addition, CBA Senior Systems Administrator Dave Hansen is working on implementing a credit card payment option for exam applicants, which is expected to launch after July 1. That concludes my presentation on this agenda item. I'll turn it back over to President Tu, but I'm also happy to answer questions you may have.
Thank you for that report. Some anecdotal report. A lot of people are anticipating the credit card ability. So people are looking forward to that. Any question from the board members or? Yes, Ms. Thompson. Thank you.
Just, I think I might have missed something related to the lease renewal.
Okay.
But we noted that the savings per year was 100,000. is that just the savings between the old lease terms and the new lease terms? I'm not sure how we got to 100,000 per year, where the math comes in.
I can go back and take a look at that, but I know that there was a savings on the square footage of the lease. It went down a little bit, so.
Okay, because I don't think that the annual cost of the lease is 100,000 a year.
No.
Okay, so then the savings is not 100K a year.
The lifetime of the lease, maybe it's multi-year lease, right?
Maybe the
That's-
lifetime.
All right,
Yeah.
Ms. Would you look into that? and
Absolutely.
Get back to.
Yes.
Oh, the lease is 45 a month?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
says.
Yes, Ms. Hines.
Oh, got it. That is how the math works then.
So it's multi-years, right? Okay.
Okay.
And I was just gonna share, there is a footnote that says that the rent for a couple of months is lower because of the tenant improvement. So is that possibly where some of the savings comes in also?
It could be possible.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Okay, Mr. Lin, do you have your hands up or is answered? It's all answered. Okay. All right, any other questions? Does anybody from Sacramento have any questions and or comments? Seeing none, Ms. Moderator, can you open up WebEx for comments?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on the administrative report, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Or if you're a calling user, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on the administrative report? I do not see any requests. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Item 5B, Enforcement Activity Report. Mr. Mitchell.
Good afternoon. I am Malcolm Mitchell, and I am the Enforcement Manager for the Intake and Probation Monitoring Unit. The activity report before members today is for the first 9 months of fiscal year 24-25. The CBA has received nearly 3,800 complaints. The graph on the bottom of page 1 provides a comparison of the total complaints received as of the same reporting period for the 2 prior fiscal years. On page 2, we've included information on the top 3 complaint types, with complaints regarding unlicensed activity being the most common. Moving on to investigations and investigations pending. On page 3, at the end of the first 9 months of the fiscal year, staff have closed over 4,800 cases, with 99% closed within 1 year. The average days to close investigations was 92 days. And enforcement had 678 cases in its pending investigations inventory. There was 1 pending case over 24 months, which is still being actively investigated. Discipline-related information can be found on page 4 of the report. Looking first at AG referrals, the CBA referred 26 matters to the AG and filed 28 pleadings. The CBA had 32 matters pending at the AG's office. Lastly, the CBA has taken action on 20 final disciplinary orders. Moving on to citations on page 5, the CBA has issued 1,636 citations. 94% of the citations were due to failing to comply with the 2012 continuing education requirement. The CBA received 197 citation and fine appeals, and we have withdrawn or modified 109 citations based on those appeals. In most cases, the licensee either provided new mitigating evidence or complied with the issue that resulted with the issuance of the citation. Page 6 contains information regarding unlicensed activity. The CBA has received just over 1,700 complaints regarding unlicensed activity. We have closed over 2,000 investigations for the first 9 months of the fiscal year. The final area of the report that I'd like to highlight is on page 7 and is related to probation monitoring. As of March 31st, we had 52 licensees on probation, with 1 new probationer since the last report. We identified 20 probation violations, with the majority being failure to submit written quarterly reports. At this time, I'd like to turn the discussion on this item over to President Tu. We'd be happy to answer any questions members may have.
Do I see any? Yes, Ms. Thompson.
Question for you just on the trend of the citations. They've increased pretty steadily year over year. And so my question is it related to one specific item? I think you mentioned maybe CPE. And is that because we just have more staff who are able to review licensees' credits, or is it because licensees are making the same mistakes over and over and maybe we need to clarify something?
Thank you for that question. A lot of the reason that we're seeing the increase is, as you know, licensees can now renew online through the Connect system, and it's much more efficient in catching the 20 and 12 violations. So that is the main reason why we have that increase.
Yes, Ms. Rosenbaum.
So the external referrals for practicing without a license, are those still coming from a single source for the most part?
Unfortunately, I cannot answer that question as a lot of these are open investigations still, so I can't confirm that.
Then never mind.
She would have to kill you if you. Sorry. Ms. Dong?
Just a question about data that's not on here. In terms of petitions, I don't believe we received any petitions this year so far. Is it seasonal? Do we get more petitions in the latter half of the fiscal year, or how does that work out?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's really any way to predict how many petitions we'll have and at what times of the year. I haven't seen a seasonal trend, but we may have a couple coming up in the next couple board meetings.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Anybody else on the board? Seeing none. Anybody from Sacramento with comments? Seeing none. Moderator, could you open up WebEx, please?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the enforcement activity report, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. If there are any comments on the enforcement activity report. I do not see any requests. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moderator.
You're welcome.
Now we're moving on to 5C, licensing activity report. Ms. Garcia?
Thank you, President Tu. I'm Suzanne Gracia. I'm the Deputy Licensing Chief of, can't talk already, Deputy Licensing Chief. The Licensing Activity Report, or LAR, covers July 1st, 2024 and March 31st, 2025. The LAR begins with reporting of processing times, which I'm pleased to report processing times remain below 30 days. And while we have been able to successfully remain under 30 days for the past several years, it isn't without effort. Resources are redirected as needed to ensure we meet this goal. On to page 2, lists the inquiries received in the licensing division. The licensing division received 21,813 telephone inquiries and 52,774 email inquiries between July 1st, 2024 and March 31st, 2025, bringing the total number of inquiries to 74,587. On to pages 3 and 4. As of March 31st, 2025, the examination unit has approved 3,718 first-time applicants to sit for the CPA exam. This includes first-time early entry exam applicants. The initial licensing unit has approved nearly 3,000 applications for new CPA and firm licenses. On pages 5 and 6, data related to renewal statistics. renewal deficiencies, and continuing education audits are displayed. As of March 31st, 2025, 34,000 renewal applications were processed. Table 7 includes CE audit data. As of March 31st, 2025, the renewal unit has performed 455 audits. Of the 455, 352 were found to be compliant. 53 were initially deficient but are now compliant. That concludes my presentation. I will now turn it back over to President Tu and happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you for that report. Any question from the board and comment? Seeing none. Sacramento, do we have anybody from Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx, please?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the licensing activity report, you may look for the hand icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen, or you may, if you're a call-in user, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Any comments on the licensing report? And I do not see any requests. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thanks, Ms. Moderator. All right,
Welcome.
moving on to item 5D, outreach activity. Ms. McCoy, may I get you up to? All right.
Good afternoon, President Tu and members of the CBA. I am Kayla McCoy, Information and Planning Analyst, and today I will be presenting item 5D, the outreach activity report. To start, the CBA headed to California State University San Bernardino on May 8th to participate in Beta Alpha Size Spring Banquet. This event marked the 5th year in a row that we teamed up with CSUSB. CBA member Nancy J. Corrigan, CPA, attended and provided amazing insights about the CBA's mission and her own professional experience as a CPA. David Hemphill, Information and Planning Officer, also shared information about the requirements for examination and licensure and the potential changes coming with Assembly Bill 1175. CBA Licensing Division staff provided transcript reviews on site and advised students about how their coursework aligned with educational requirements for licensure. It was a great event. It was attended by more than 75 students and local accounting firm representatives. Also on May 8th, I presented the requirements for CPA exam and requirements for licensure at Cal CPA's virtual candidate town hall. The session also included CPA exam information from a representative from Universal CPA Review. CPA examination unit analyst Patty Ritter was also in attendance to answer participants' questions. In late April, the CBA attended a senior information fair at the Neil Orchard Senior Activity Center in Rancho Cordova, a suburb of Sacramento. Staff handed out the newly revised consumer assistance booklet to attendees and discussed how to be aware and stay safe from elder financial abuse. We're all going to be hitting the road for the September CBA meeting, which will be held at California State University, Northridge. As with past board meetings hosted on college campuses, staff are organizing additional outreach opportunities with students in conjunction with the meeting. Both the outreach activities and the board meeting will take place on campus. More information about these events will be coming your way very soon. Now, I would like to let you know all about all of the outreach activity we are doing surrounding Assembly Bill 1175. The CBA has hosted 2 live Q&A events since our last meeting. The first, on April 4th, was hosted live on Instagram. The second event was conducted on WebEx on May 2nd. Hosting the event on WebEx allowed staff to solicit for questions in advance, which were answered during the session, along with many other questions asked during the duration of the event. The CBA will continue to hold these live Q&A events monthly to give interested parties a regular outlet to receive real-time updates on the progress of AB 1175 and to get their questions answered. The CBA is also creating short videos in a series that focuses on different parts of AB 1175. 2 videos have already been released with Mr. Hemphill as a spokesperson, one which discussed the licensure requirements effective date changing to January 1st, 2027, and the other filmed on campus at San Bernardino last week, detailing exactly how the educational requirements may be changing pending the bill's passage. The goal is to increase transparency and continue to communicate the details and progress of the legislation, so current and future applicants can be informed to make educated decisions about their road to licensure. Finally, the CBA is creating infographics to provide clear and accessible information about AB 1175 in a visual way. These will graphically display the differences between the expressway and the non-CBA recognized degree options with example scenarios and characters for each. Once completed, these infographics will be used to help tell the story on our social media platforms, website, and other CBA publications. Update issue number 104 was published on April 1st. This edition included many informative articles and details about AB 1175, and staff has already begun working on issue number 105 with the goal of a late June release. We are also very excited to announce that the outreach team is fully staffed once again, and I would like to formally introduce you to our new outreach coordinator, Mick Murray. Yay! Mick comes to the team with a background of writing and event planning and has actually held jobs on 4 continents. So ask him about what continents those are. Lastly, let's look at social media growth. All CBA social platforms have seen positive growth over the months of March, April, and May. LinkedIn continues to be our quickest growing platform and has also seen a 46% increase in reposts and a 37% increase in comments. A lot of the increase surrounds the ongoing efforts to increase awareness, education, and timely updates on the progress of AB 1175. That concludes my presentation on this agenda item. I'll now turn it back to President Tu, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that fun report. Mr. Murray, right? Murray, apparently you're a videographer as well. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Dong.
Given the uncertain business outlook for this year, have you seen attendance at your outreach events higher than usual?
I would say yes, participation from my personal experience at some of the events has been really high. Engagement is out there. I can let Mr. Hemphill expand as well with some of the experience he's had, but I think that students are really engaged. They really are excited about the changes that are coming to the profession. So I think that we've seen increases. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree. The San Bernardino event, which we've done 5 years in a row, although the first 2 were virtual, but there was probably 50 to 60 the last 2 years. And this year, she said 75, but we actually just confirmed from them like yesterday that it was actually about 100. So definitely more than the last couple of years. I think you saw that. You were there, Ms. Corrigan.
The first year, meaning 3 years ago when I was there, was like, we were kind of like, oh my gosh, there's nobody here, nobody participating. And then second, third year into the 4th and 5th year, definitely the participation increased.
Yeah.
Word is out there, and also social media will probably help as well. Speaking of which, my husband all of a sudden screaming at me, Jen, you have to come in. He was scrolling YouTube video, and our meeting was on YouTube, and he was so excited.
Yeah, famous now.
He actually watched it because he loves his wife and he wants to see his wife on the video. Sorry. I digress a little bit. Thank you very much for the report. Oh, hold on. I need to get the public in Sacramento. Anybody from Sacramento? Miss Moderator, could you open up to WebEx for comments?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the outreach report, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Any calling users can press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on the outreach report? I do not see any requests. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Ms. Moderator.
You're welcome.
Thank you again. All right, we're going to item 6, report on Enforcement Advisory Committee, Qualification Committee, and Peer Review Oversight Committee. 6A is Enforcement Activity Committee. Ms. O'Connor is going to report out for us.
Thank you. So the EAC Enforcement Advisory Committee held its meeting in person on May 1st at the Los Angeles Marriott Burbank Airport. I would like to thank CBA member Ms. Corrigan for attending the EAC meeting and providing a very informative update to our members. At the meeting, members focused on reviewing 12 investigative files and provided very valuable insights and feedback to assist staff with the next steps of the investigation for those files. Since the last report, the EAC has conducted 3 investigative hearings, and our next meeting will be held on July 10th here at the CBA office. And now, if it's okay, I'll move on to item 6A2, which is the approval of the 2026 EAC meeting dates. So EAC members approved these meeting dates at the May 1st, 2025 meeting and has selected the dates for 2026 to avoid major and religious holidays. The EAC recommends that the CBA adopt the proposed meeting dates. And that concludes my presentation, and I will turn it back over to President Tu and can answer any questions members may have.
Did you say we need to adopt the meeting dates?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody on the board? Ms. Lada?
I move to approve the proposed 2026 EAC meeting dates.
Excellent. Ms. Colligan, would you like to second?
I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Excellent. Any discussion, comments from the board? Seeing none. Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx for comments?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the EAC? I do not see any requests for comments. Shall I close that feature?
Ms. Reed, can you call the roll?
Yin Tu, Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Bruce Rayful, Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
and Doug Aguilera.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. All right, we're item 6B and C, there's no reports. So therefore, we're going to move on to item number 7 is the approval of the minutes. First, I would like to take a motion to adopt the minutes of March 2025. Oh, that was a bit of a transistor there. California Board of Accountancy meeting, especially agenda item 7A, which include non-substantive edits that are noted after the material was received. Mr. Ruffle, would you like to make a motion?
Approval of the minutes is distributed.
Thank you. Do I see second by Ms. Batchelor?
I second.
Excellent. Any comments from the board? Anybody from Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx for comment on the minute?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the March 20th meeting minutes, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, and call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Any comments on the March 20 minutes? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moderator. Ms. Reed, call the roll.
All right, Doug Aguilera, Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Bruce Rayful,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Yen Tu. The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Now, can I get a motion to accept the committee meetings, especially agenda items 7B through 7E, which include non-substantive edits that are noted after the material was received? Ms. Ruffle, would you
Move
like?
approval is distributed.
Excellent. Do I see second, Ms. Hine? Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Anybody from Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx for comments?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on the second set of minutes, the CPC minutes from March 20th, you may look for the hand icon and click that, and call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. Any comments on the March 20th CPC minutes? I do not see any requests for comment.
This is Michael Knot's legal counsel. So it's all the remaining items B through E.
The entire, thank you so much. Any comments on the minutes in item 7? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moderator. Ms.
You're
Reed,
welcome.
would you like to take a roll?
Yin Tu,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum, Bruce Rafel.
Yes.
Tony Lynn, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines.
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
and Doug Aguilera. The motion carries.
Ms. Reed. All right, we're moving on to item 8. I know you're all sitting at the edge of your seats. Ms. Colligan, would you like to report on the meetings of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants?
I sure will. Nothing so earth-shattering, but but I will do my best. So the State Board Committee met via Zoom on May 9th. And in addition to administrative procedures, one of the things we always try to do is receive an update of the Board of Examiners meeting. That meeting was held on May 5th and 6th, so just right before ours. We had hoped to have, they didn't really have enough information to finish a full year's assessment of candidate performance under the new exam provisions, so that will be forthcoming down the line. Another thing that we always do in that committee is collect state board hot topics. Now, remembering just a fragment of the jurisdictions are represented. So, and of course, for California, I spoke about our AB 1175, which I have now a number of meetings over time. Our business modernization project, our changes to the continuing professional education and future regulatory wording and things that we are working on at this time. What was interesting is that when other jurisdictions reported in the change to more of them for the ones that were present, taking a look at more flexible mobility versus substantial equivalency, and one of them even mentioning having guardrails in place, such as California. So it sounded very much like ours. So that was really it for that meeting. Those are the highlights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulligan. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. We are going to take the public comment after we have all the reports from item number 8 on other business. 8B, the National Associate of State Board of Accountancy, Mr. Aguilar is going to talk about the committee he attend, which is Enforcement Resources.
Yes, thank you. The Enforcement Resources Committee met on Tuesday, April 1st, virtually, and was well attended. We got a great debrief on the legal and executive director conference. We talked about future webinars, including having a defense attorney talk to us. So as I understand it, there was a presentation at the legal and executive directors conference given by a accountant's defense attorney that was very interesting. I know I would find that interesting. And so that's a possible subject for a future webinar. And then we discussed newsletter and enforcement alerts and articles, possible articles, including those related to enforcement rule and legislation updates, CPE cheating discipline summary, the Department of Labor update, AICPA disciplinary info, defense of licensee article, similar to what I was just talking about a minute ago, and so on and so forth. Topics for potential articles. And then there's a website update related to the federal agency resource. There's a subcommittee in place that's brainstorming and talking about the PCAOB and walking through how to handle a disciplinary referral from PCAOB and other website updates. And then we are going to have an in-person meeting. It's been determined that Nashville is the most convenient for most of the members, and they're working on a date for that in-person meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. And Ms. Patricia Batchelor, do not have a report?
Nothing to report this time.
All right, excellent. That leads to my report on Legislative Support Committee. We met on April 22nd, and most of the agenda is relating to legislative update on pathway and mobility. And as you can imagine, the different states are all going different directions and so forth. And if you want to see a very busy map, I'll be happy to provide you with that busy map. Otherwise, you can imagine from what all legislative proposal, which is pretty similar to many of the other proposals, but I would say stand out would be some of the problem that are showing up is actually deregulation of legislation. Generally speaking, from Nevada to Florida, there's a movement there, and not just those two states, but other states to deregulate Board of Accountancies, mostly just to get rid of them and that creates a problem, as you can imagine. Some of them, Florida, for example, is looking at even taking out continuing education. It's still in the process in the legislation. Their legislation doesn't close until June 8th, but the California CPA Society is working toward not deregulating the Board of Accountancy in Florida, for example. And as they are moving, we'll keep you up to date. But at this point, there's no resolution on that. Does anybody have any question regarding that, Ms. Batchelor?
Yes, my question is, what's Florida's rationale for taking away CPE?
It's their
I'm not a really big fan of CPE, but
apparently it's their state's version of Doge. So they want to deregulate and have not a dedicated executive staff as well as professional staff that deal with the Board of Accountancy and would be put into the general administration bureaucracy of licensing in general. Yes, Ms. Thompson.
Did any other state come up as also considering deregulating their?
Yes, now Nevada. Can you explain Nevada a little bit more? I didn't quite get Nevada.
Probably not actually, but some of the Nevada one, if I understood it correctly, is more about moving to a private organization, taking over for the state in terms of privatizing that kind of oversight and overview and consolidation of that sort. As for other states, just in general, the whole deregulation movement has been something we've seen over the past 5 or 6 years now. And it's taken certain forms, different forms in different areas. Florida's is probably the most aggressive we've seen in a while. And to Ms. Batchelor's question about why CPE, I don't think CPE was really the issue. Is that they were looking to just deregulate the entire profession, not so much the CPE requirement. That was just an add-on to the discussion to make sure that, it's more consumer choice driven than say requiring a license to get into the profession. But I would anticipate that deregulation stuff is going to continue to happen and continue to be discussed. But it's also one of the reasons why a number of states are also looking at their licensure requirements to make sure that they don't have unnecessary barriers to entry that kind of bring this kind of group of individuals into their state to seek deregulation. So as it relates to us, though, a little bit, it's part of the reason why we have the guardrails on our mobility program. I didn't anticipate we'd have to start looking at them maybe in June with Florida, but that's part of the reason why we have those kind of requirements in place. So if a state does do that, we have ways to protect consumers should deregulation start to snowball a little bit in other states.
Sorry, just to tack on to that. Did Florida have a plan to deal with disciplinary measures on licensees and state? They're just not going to discipline.
No, they will discipline. It's just that it's going to be the general staff. It's not dedicated staff that know accountancy issues. Not even that.
No, I don't think that. I think the intention is to remove the requirement of licensure for that state. I'm not sure entirely, but like it really was getting rid of the Board of Accountancy. It would move into the other, it might move into a regulatory group, but not from the standpoint of what we're doing. As for enforcement, I really don't know. But I would see this as a big, it's not like a small change to deregulate, it's a significant change.
Ms. Corrigan.
Is it similar? It sounds like it's actually more extreme than some jurisdictions that have like an umbrella agency. For example, Idaho, there was one point where their executive director was executive director for like 16 boards of all kinds. I mean, so it's not like that at all. It sounds like, so I wouldn't call Idaho deregulated. It's just how they're managing it. But Florida sounds like a definite deregulation possibly. Correct.
I would say it's probably the most aggressive form of the deregulation we've seen.
And they're trying to walk that back a little bit. So their Senate actually have made some amendment, but it now had to go to the House. Hopefully the House agree. Yes, Ms. Raffle.
So sorry to beat this dead horse because I'm just trying to understand this. So as I understand the discussion, what you see coming down the path is an unlicensed Florida accountant can come to California and do business and compete with California licensed accountants? Because if licensure goes away in Florida, anybody can come and say they're an accountant. They're licensed. They get some paper from the state of Florida. They come into California. Now they're competing with California licensed accountants.
They can try, but all proposed legislation have guardrail, as Mr. Francella was mentioning earlier. They would not be able to practice in California.
But they're licensed to practice or they're allowed to practice in Florida. So I have a driver's license in California. I can go to Florida and drive, and vice versa.
I mean,
so the reciprocity is
it is the Florida state's prerogative. I mean, as a state, if they don't want to regulate a license, that's their prerogative. But they would not. The person would not be able to come to California and practice. Does that mean?
No, but that's okay. I'll figure it out later.
So just to provide a couple of things. One, we'll have some clarity by June on where this is going to land. In Florida, likely, from what I hear, it's not going to make it through the process. So, but it is worth becoming more educated on it to see what. I don't think it'll be the last time we see this. As to your question about whether or not they can practice, until we understood what actually was happening in Florida, it's hard to gauge what the impact is from a reciprocity standpoint. Reciprocity and mobility are different. So they couldn't just up and pick up a license and move here. In terms of a reciprocity piece, mobility is something we would look at based on what Florida has in place and how that aligns with our mobility provisions. But it likely would have an impact in some capacity, and this board would have to do something about it, which we have in our toolkit to deal with. So right now for us, it's more of a wait and see because it literally came out of nowhere. It was a Renaissance Fair bill in Florida that they gutted and amended and through to the Senate who rejected it. But the session is continuing to go on until the beginning part of June, at which point we'll find out whether or not it comes to fruition, but it doesn't look like it will be at this point.
And staff will bring that back to us for sure in July to report out if we want to hear about it. Any other comments or seeing none? Next item is Corrigan, the award committee.
President too. So the NASBA Awards Committee met virtually on May 7th. And every year NASBA awards a Distinguished Service Award, a Public Service Award, and a Standards of Excellence Award. And so we as a committee reviewed our charge in connection with that. We reviewed the award criteria, the nomination form, timing, and that sort of thing. And so the call for nominations went out, I think, on May 12th. The deadline is June 30th, at which time the nominations will come in. The committee will meet again on July 14th and review all of that and make a recommendation to the full board as to who we suggest for these 3 awards. And so until June 14th, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. And then next
July 14th.
July 14th. Okay. Thank you. Now, next we have Mr. Franzina to report out on his conference.
So yes, thank you, President Tu. At the end of March, or just after our March board meeting, I had the opportunity to go down to Clearwater, Florida, for NASBA's annual executive director and legal conference event. And this event was kind of different for me. We've been trying to get it, the video, but we haven't been able to secure it yet. But I had the opportunity to present at this conference this time around on mobility, excuse me, mobility and enforcement. So I appreciated the opportunity to provide California's insight both into how we've evolved over mobility over time, how we handle enforcement today, and what our new model may look like with the passage of 1175. The other topic that really has become front and center both at the ED conference will also be a part of what we deal with at the Western Regional is alternative practice structures. We've had a discussion before the board late last year, I believe, on the topic, and it's really starting to focus in on alternative practice structures and private equity. I've been asked to serve on a task force with NASBA to assist in the regulatory perspective on that, and I'm slated to present at the Eastern or the Western Regional as part of a panel on the regulator perspective on APS. So I anticipate over the course of the rest of this year and beginning next year that more of that information will start kind of, excuse me, working its way before the board, and the board needing to start to look at kind of, is there a regulatory space that we need to deal with as it relates to private equity and alternative practice structures. So with that, I'll turn it back over to President Tu, and I'll do my best to answer any questions members may have.
Anybody have any question for a fearless leader here? Seeing none. All right, with all that item, I am now going to take public comment from item 8 to all the way to 8E. Anybody from Sacramento like to make a comment? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, can you open up for public comment?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment on any of the conference reports that the board members have given, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, and our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the reports? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment period?
Yes, please. Thank you, Ms. Moderator. So I'm going to take a prerogative as chair to postpone our afternoon break for a little bit longer to finish the report until we need to go into closed sessions. It's only been less than an hour since we've been here. So let's move on to number 9. Report of the Committee on Professional Conduct, Legislation Committee, and Enforcement Program Oversight Committee. 9A, Committee on Professional Conduct, Mr. Aguilar.
Thank you, President Tu. This morning, the CBA took up a gazillion policy items to help guide and inform future regulatory changes. If the CBA-sponsored Assembly Bill 1175 becomes law. Staff noted how their recommendations were guided by numerous discussions with faculty, including department chairs, academic and executive directors, as well as members of the California Society of CPAs Accounting Education Committee to collect feedback on various policy areas. The first item discussed was the CBA recognition of degrees that meet all educational requirements for licensure. It's important to note that under Assembly Bill 1175, students do not have to earn a CBA recognized degree to qualify for the exam or licensure. Staff proposed several recommendations for the implementation of a CBA recognized degree program regarding university eligibility, the degree requirements, the administrative requirements for a school to request recognition, and the application process and how a school could practice their recognition. The CPC was in agreement with and adopted the staff recommendations. So this is the expressway, right? If you get a undergraduate degree from a recognized university, then you don't have to worry about the transcripts. Is that right or wrong? Sorry.
Come on back up, Ms. Center.
I just want to make one clarification that there's no intent to recognize a university. It is only specific degrees within the university that will recognize, and potentially more than one degree within a university, but not the university themselves. Thanks.
And so then if I do have that recognized degree, then I don't have to have a transcript review in addition. I can just rest assured that I've taken the correct classes.
Correct. It would make that transcript review more efficient because we would only need to look at that line that says that particular degree was conferred and not have to review the individual courses that make up the accounting concentration.
Okay. I promise no more clarifying, confusing summarizations from me. I'm good. Thank you. The CPC recommends that the CBA direct staff to move forward with the 9 proposed policies for the acceptance of recognized degree programs to inform future regulatory changes as recommended by staff in the agenda item. This is a fully formed motion and a second is not needed. Would we pass that? Would we vote on that or do them all at once?
We do have to take each one. So thank you for your motion,
Yep.
Mr. Aguilar. And I would like to then open up to the board for any question or comments on that motion. Seeing none. Anybody from Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx, please?
Certainly. If anyone has any comments on this issue, you may look for the hand icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen. Click that to raise your hand. Our calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any requests for comment? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thanks. Ms. Reed, please call the roll.
Doug Aguilera,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Bruce Rafel,
Yes.
Joseph Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Yen Tu.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. Continue, Mr.
Thank you.
Aguilar.
The second item under consideration was related to the CBA recognition of certificates as a substitute for a portion of the general accounting experience requirement as proposed by Assembly Bill 1175. Staff noted that a recognized certificate may not be used as a substitute for earning a bachelor's degree. The CPC discussed provider eligibility, certificate requirements, and the amount of experience which could be substituted. Staff proposed several policy recommendations for the acceptance of a CBA recognized certificate. The CPC was in agreement with and adopted the staff's recommendations. The CPC recommends that the CBA direct staff to move forward with the 12 proposed policies for the acceptance of recognized certificates to inform future regulatory changes as recommended by staff in the agenda item. This is a fully formed motion and a second is not needed. Turn it back over to you, Ms. Tu.
Thank you. Again, any discussion from the board on this motion? Seeing none, Sacramento? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Lara.
Thank you, President Tu. I just wanted to know that it seems like this is a little ahead of market. I think in our committee meeting, Ms. Center, you mentioned that is some interest, but it's still a very new program development that the community colleges will be engaging in. So I think this is great for the future of the industry, and it should incentivize the community colleges to create these programs. And I just had a question. Are we confident that they have the resources to create these programs, or is this something we're kind of leading them in a direction, in a sense, alternatively?
In my conversations with the faculty at community colleges, they did not express any concerns from a fiscal side.
It's almost like the chicken and the egg
Right.
thing. I mean, if you don't bill it, they won't come type of thing. Ms. Corrigan.
And also at the university level, there are some programs in the planning stages such as this.
Yeah. All right. You good? All right. Any comment from the public here in Sacramento? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, can you open up WebEx, please?
Certainly, if anyone would like to make a comment, you can look for the hand icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen. Click that to raise your hand. Call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on the issue? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, Ms. Moderator. Do you have any public on the WebEx? You do? Okay.
We
never
do,
mind.
yes.
I thought I might be smart and ask that question. All right, Ms. Reed, could you call the roll on the pub?
Yen Tu,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum, Bruce Rafel,
Yes.
Tony Lynn, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines.
Yes.
Nancy Dong.
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor.
Yes.
And Doug Aguilera. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Continue on.
Thank you, President Tu. The third item involved advanced degrees as a substitute for 1 year of the general experience requirement as proposed by Assembly Bill 1175. The CPC discussed two options for which advanced degrees could be accepted, one for applicants with a bachelor's degree in accounting and one for applicants with a bachelor's degree in another subject area. The CPC was in agreement with and adopted the staff recommendations. The CPC recommends that the CBA direct staff to move forward with the two proposed policies for the acceptance of advanced degrees to substitute for 1 year of general accounting experience to inform future regulatory changes as recommended by staff in the agenda item. This is a fully formed motion and a second is not needed. I'll turn it back to you, President Tu.
Thank you. I actually have a question on this one, Ms. Center. Let's say the new thing is require 2 years of work experience, correct? Is it only 1 year that you can substitute with an advanced degree, or can you do 2 advanced degree to take out both years?
No, there's a maximum of 1 year. That is part of the amendments that were made to AB 1175. So a maximum of 1 year that you can substitute.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Anybody else on the board? Seeing none. Sacramento, any comment? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx for a comment?
Thank you. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the issue? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Thank you very much, Ms. Reed. Call the roll, please.
Doug Aguilera,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines.
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn, Bruce Rafel,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Yen Tu. The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. All right, Mr. Aguilar, I have one more motion.
President two. The final agenda item focused on the accounting experience requirement as proposed by Assembly Bill 1175. The discussion revolved around the inclusion of job tasks to go along with the experience requirement and the setting in which candidates can gain the necessary experience. The CPC was in agreement with and adopted staff recommendations. The CPC recommends that the CBA direct staff to move forward with the 3 proposed policies for the experience requirements to inform future regulatory changes as recommended by staff in the agenda item. This is a fully formed motion and a second is not needed. That concludes my report and I'll turn it back to President Tu.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Anybody on the board have any comment, question? Yes, Ms. Lara.
Thank you, President Tu. Before we conclude our votes on these items, I just wanted to say how proud I am to be a part of this board and our staff for moving forward this legislation and how well executed these materials were and evidenced by the board having no amendments to what was proposed. So I wanted to say thank you for that, and it's much appreciated. And, you know, it's great to be leading not only our state, but industry nationally with this bill. And we're all doing such great work. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I would second that. Good job, everybody, especially staff. All right, thank you very much. I think that would be no more question from the board. Seeing Sacramento, any comments? Seeing none, Ms. Moderator, can you open up WebEx, please?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on this one, last one, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on this issue? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thanks, Ms. Moderator. And Ms. Reed, could you call the roll?
Yen Tu,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson, Joe Rosenbaum, Bruce Rafel.
Yes.
Tony Lynn, Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines.
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
and Doug Aguilera.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to 9B, Legislative Committee. Ms. Thompson, would you like to report out, please?
Yes, thank you. The LC began this morning discussing updates to Assembly Bill 1175, Accountants. Staff presented an update on AB 1175, the CBA legislation to update licensing requirements and to modernize mobility. The bill has passed out of the Assembly and has been referred to the Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee for a policy hearing. Since the last meeting, AB 1175 was amended 3 times. These amendments addressed issues discussed at the March meeting. The experience requirements were also addressed, specifically the amount of experience that can be substituted. The most recent amendments removed the previous emergency rulemaking authority. To accommodate the new rulemaking timeline, the implementation date of the licensure requirements in the bill were pushed back 6 months to January 1st, 2027. Candidates will now have a 2-year window to apply for licensure under the new requirements or the existing requirements, which will be valid through December 31, 2028. The LC took no action on this item. The LC maintained its sponsor and support position on this bill. I'll continue with
Yes,
Assembly
please.
Bill 1405, Artificial Intelligence Auditors Enrollment. Staff presented AB 1405 and asked the LC to provide feedback and grant staff the authority to work with stakeholders and the author to possibly shape the legislation moving forward. The bill would establish an enrollment process in the California Government Operations Agency for auditors of artificial intelligence,
allowing the auditors to perform any required audits of an AI system or model by an independent third party. The stated focus of the bill is to create transparency, ensure competency, and ethical standards for enrolled auditors. However, in its current form, there are inconsistencies as to who can perform the audits, how the audits are completed, and significant differences in results and costs associated with the reports. If such assurance services were conducted by a CPA, they would be done under established AICPA attestation standards and would be subject to specific reporting standards, whereas if performed by a non-CPA, the same standards may not be met. Including references to the AICPA standards in the bill might be helpful to the process. There was additional discussion about the bill's use of the term audit outside of a CPA environment. Pat Joyce of the Accountants Coalition and Jason Fox of the California Society of CPAs both expressed their support for the CBA to engage with the author. The LC agreed with the concerns expressed by staff. The LC took no action on this item and authorized staff to continue engaging with stakeholders and the bill's author to potentially help shape this legislation. Continuing with the school accountability measures, Assembly Bill 84, Senate Bill 414, and Senate Bill 719. Staff presented a package of related school accountability measures, including AB 84, Senate SB 414, and SB 719, which all specifically reference the CBA. The measures incorporate concepts to detect and curtail fraud and strengthen oversight of charter schools as recommended by a report issued by the state controller last year. One of the larger concerns identified in the bills is regarding the peer review provisions. AB 84 calls for all accounting firms or CPAs conducting local education agency audits, or LEA, to have been peer reviewed by the CBA. SB 719 would go even further and require that an LEA audit is included in the engagement selected to be a part of the peer review process. These provisions may conflict with the nationally established peer review program approved by the CBA and could necessitate the CBA develop new methods to implement the state-specific elements not covered under the existing peer review program. The bill's requirements for continuing education and initial training for auditors was discussed, plus provisions which would refer matters to the CBA for investigation. The LC discussed whether the existing peer review format would be sufficient or if the CBA would have to adopt changes on its own. Staff indicated that the proposed bills currently would mandate peer review of these audits, which is something the AICPA does not provide, and therefore CBA would have to adapt. The LC took no action on this item and indicated their support for the CBA staff to continue engaging with stakeholders on these measures throughout the process. And then my last item was the review and consideration of possible positions on legislation the California Board of Accountancy is monitoring. Staff are monitoring 11 bills in the legislature. These bills address issues including the Badgley-Keene Open Meeting Act, licensing waivers, and exemptions during states of emergency. The LC took no action on this item, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. That was a lot of bills. Yes, but it's mostly we're watching them. So moving on to 9C. Oh, good. Take public comment and board comments as well. Question from the board, public comments. From Sacramento, any Sacramento public comments? Seeing none, Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the report, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Our call-in users can press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on the report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, Ms. Moderator.
You're welcome.
Now we can move to 9C, Enforcement Program Oversight Committee. Ms. Dong.
Before I move into my readout, I was reminded of my solemn duty by Mr. Rosenbaum to tell a bad joke each year. So I will have one bad joke for all of you. How many accountants does it take to screw in a light bulb? No responses? How many did it take last year?
All right.
Moving on. So the readout for EPOC, which is the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, we discussed proposed revisions to the information provided to individuals petitioning for reinstatement of a CPA certificate or reduction of penalty. Staff presented proposed revisions to the overview of the petition process and the petition form. The revisions are identified in strike-through and underlined on attachments 1 and 2. All revisions to the documents are incorporated without strike-through and underlined in attachments 3 and 4. The updated petition form was also updated to a fillable PDF. The EPOC recommends an update to the petition form to remove the question which asks if the petitioner will attend the petition hearing in person. The question may cause confusion as to whether attending in person is optional, as the CBA requires a petitioner to appear in person. The EPOC recommends that the CBA approve the revised petition process overview and petition form. Given that this is a fully formed motion and does not require a second, I will turn it back to President Tu for discussion and a vote.
Thank you, Ms. Dong. Any discussion from the board member and question? Seeing none. Any from the Sacramento location? Seeing none. Ms. Moderator, could you open up WebEx?
Certainly. If anyone would like to make a comment on the report, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any questions or any comments on the report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Reed, can you take a vote?
Doug Aguilar,
Yes.
Patricia Batchelor,
Yes.
Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
Nancy Dong,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines.
Yes.
Christian Lotta,
Yes.
Tony Lynn,
Yes.
Bruce Rafel,
Yes.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Teresa Thompson,
Yes.
and Yen Tu.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. All right, agenda item number 10A is agenda item for future California Board of Accountancy meetings. Are there any agenda item from the members? Yes, Ms. Hines.
I'm just going to put on the record again and ask for some additional board topics or presentations on the integration and implementation of AI into the accounting profession for our education as members, board members.
Yes, I'll make a note of that and work with the EO too. No, DO. Yeah, on that item. Thank you, Ms. Hines. Anybody else? I will now open up to the public in Sacramento. Are there any member in the Sacramento? Seeing none, Ms. Moderator, can you open up WebEx for possible future items from the public?
Certainly. If anyone has a suggestion of an agenda item for a future meeting, you can look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, or our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Any ideas for future agenda items? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moderator.
You're welcome.
All right, at this point, we're at the time where we'll be moving into closed session to deliberate on closed session matters. Once closed session is complete, the CPA will adjourn. So if you don't need to be in the closed session, you are welcome to be excused. Oh, and we have a 15 minutes break. So please come back at 2:45.
And we will be adjourning from closed session. So I just have to say it.